Hello, my name is Rusty Clark. I am a senior here at Arizona State University. I'm studying English with a minor in education with the goal of going into prison education. So for this assignment, my new learning, so I said throughout this course I obviously learned a lot, and narrowing it down to just a few examples of the most pertinent information was pretty difficult. One of the most impactful things I got to learn about was the impacts of sleep deprivation on children from Poe Bronson and Ashley Merriman's book, Nurture Shock. In their chapter titled The Lost Hour, they discuss the different adverse side effects of sleep deprivation. The component of this chapter that I found most interesting had to do with intelligence. They state, the performance gap caused by an hour's difference in sleep was bigger than the gap between a normal 4th grader and a normal 6th grader. A loss of 1 hour of sleep is equivalent to the loss of 2 years of cognitive development. I found this to be a really interesting discovery into the minds of children because I was one of those kids who stayed up really late. I'd always read in bed for hours past my bedtime, and then I would perform poorly in school. But I never really thought that that was correlated anyway, because I thought I was doing something smart and good for my brain by staying up reading instead of watching TV or playing video games. But it turns out it didn't matter. My challenges. One of the major challenges of my future career as an educator will be to create an environment in which students with complex trauma are still able to learn successfully. Because I'm planning on working as an educator in the prison system, most, if not all, of my students will have endured some kind of hardship in their lives that has led them down the path they are on. With these students, I will have to be cognizant of their individual situations and backgrounds when creating lesson plans, and remember these things when dealing with their behavioral issues. In the 2015 documentary Paper Tigers, directed by James Redford, an alternative high school was originally developed as a means to separate problem students from their peers and work on their behavioral issues. Recently, however, the school changed its policies and goals to work towards understanding how adverse childhood experiences can impact learning. Mr. Gordon, one of the teachers at Lincoln, describes how their behaviors are not indicative of who they are, nor are they a reflection of their teachers. He says, you have to unconditionally love them and understand that their behaviors may be out of their control. To properly combat the impacts of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, a child must develop a loving and trusting relationship with an adult, something that many of these students are not able to receive in the home. In my future field, there will definitely be some hardships developing that trust between myself and my students as they're going to be incarcerated, to ensure that I present myself as an equal rather than an authority figure, which they may already not trust. Another challenge that I foresee in my career is that I will also need to be cognizant of how my adult students with children or who are planning on having children are able to prevent giving their children adverse childhood experiences. According to Feldman and Babu, an adverse childhood experience includes... Sorry, my dog started barking. Okay. According to Feldman and Babu, an adverse childhood experience includes abuse, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, which can be emotional or physical, growing up with household substance abuse, criminality of household members, mental illness among household members, parental discord, and illicit drug use. Now, obviously, working in a prison, there's going to be a lot of instances in which people are doing these things, and that is going to have an impact on their children. So it's going to be really difficult due to the already invasive nature of having an incarcerated parent, but by providing my students the proper information regarding these adverse childhood experiences and giving them tools to use as a self-reflection, I hope to eradicate that, or at least lower it. As I mentioned before, I'm planning on a career in prison education, specifically with adults, which makes it a little different than the content that we learned in this class, but that is okay. The contents of this class will help me understand the unique situations my students present in their childhood and how their environment as children impacted their decision-making skills as adults. Children with ACE scores 4 or above, so 4 adverse childhood experiences or more in their life, are more likely to have difficulty connecting with peers and educators as their brains are constantly on high alert for danger. This is going to be especially true in a prison system, which is already a very high stress, high chaotic environment. This creates toxic stress on the brain, which can make it impossible to truly learn. A major aspect of learning, both academically and socially, comes from a child's unique experience with empathy. Feldman and Babu suggest that moral development and behavior is rooted in a child's development of empathy. So if a child is not raised in an empathetic environment in which they are able to develop empathy through mimicry or exposure, they are more likely to be aggressive as adults. In my future career, I need to ensure that I can provide that empathetic classroom so that they can learn and imitate my behavior in order to improve themselves. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.